Nestled high in the Rocky Mountains and broadcasting from the Pineapple to the Big Apple. As sure as the north wind blows and the South Sea flows, the Conspirati Show begins now.
Hi folks, welcome to another episode of the Conspirati Podcast. This is Josh and James, and we're here today to talk about some of our favorite people, QAnon. James, you've been kind of going down the rabbit hole. What have you found out about this anonymous group that seems to be everywhere?
Well, I've definitely gone down the rabbit hole on this one, and I've dug so deep I popped out in Israel, ironically enough. Much as QAnon rabbit holes will tend to lead you to. So, what a fucked up group of people. Really no other way to slice it about this. This is, in my opinion, if I had two people in a room and I asked each of them, what's your favorite conspiracy? What do you believe? And one of them said lizard people. The other one said QAnon. I'd much rather hang out with the lizard person believer than the QAnon folk. Not to say that Qs don't believe in lizard people, but it's definitely to me kind of the alpha conspiracy, the one conspiracy to rule them all. And this thing uses so much ambiguity; it has drawn in just about every facet of the conspiracy world. All the good ones are all playing a role in this thing. So, kind of the history behind it, QAnon started in October of 2017 on your favorite message board and mine, 4chan, as every good conspiracy racist post tends to started right there. And it was started by an anonymous user, and it's called QAnon because they supposedly had Q clearance, which is a real thing. Doing some research on this, the Q clearance is basically top secret clearance, and there's a whole bunch of different levels on security clearances that one can obtain. I mean, even before QAnon, there were reports from a FBI anon, a CIA anon. None of those really caught on until Q came on. There's supposedly a military insider. Which is weird because when looking into the Q clearance, it's authorization in the Department of Energy as kind of their main, calling sign there, and it's definitely a top secret clearance. But it began with this post on 4chan, and started kind of drawing a lot of attention on that message board. As things tend to do there, it started to kind of build its own ethos on there, and it really didn't take off till a woman by the name of Tracy Diaz kind of really gave it the push that it needs. And she was a small time YouTube star, talk show host on a pretty fringy right wing network, the Liberty Movement Radio. And she kind of Diaz really gained notoriety for first going over the WikiLeaks and talking about, Pizzagate, which is really a pillar of the Q movement, but really kind of looking at QAnon as a whole. Effectively, it's a Twitter account at this point, and this one Twitter account will come out and drop these hyper cryptic messages, and these are known as
they're kind of like the blind, and, right? Like that drops all the celebrity tabloid.
I don't even. Those things are actually going to give you a statement more so than this could be like an advanced AI putting in the most nonsensical type of things into a tweet possible. But again, they're called crumbs, and people known as Qs are known as bakers. Hence, crumbs, bakers. You kind of see what they're doing there. Yeah, you'd think.
Be dropping doughs.
Well, dropping a lot of horse shit best I can figure from looking at it. But yeah, good God. I mean, just going over this account and a lot of these tweets in there, whew, it is pretty rough. But I guess, the central thesis behind this is what Anons call the storm. The storm is coming. It's kind of their big thing. And if you were to boil this down to their central thesis, it is as follows: that there is a deep state cabal of satanic pedophiles who all take orders from Hillary Clinton, and they're running the world. So yeah, got that to look forward to.
It's a little different than the normal lizard people ruling the world.
What I'm saying. I mean, it really makes.
I just have a question. Why Hillary and not a Jew? Why not like George Soros and Rothschild? Or are they in service of Hillary?
I think Hillary's really a Jew. I think it's kind of it's blood ties. Gotta have ties.
Right. I was just curious.
Yeah. Oh God. You'd think Soros would be at the head of this, and he's all over. He's got his fingerprints all over it. But yeah, the pedophiles is one thing. That's a hell of a accusation to hurl at anybody, but also child murderers. It's really the big thing. I like to think that the pedophile part comes in before the murder part, but God only knows what these monsters that the Q is trying to liberate us from.
It probably changes day to day. And the pedophile thing is a pretty common thing in just conspiracy theory in general when it comes to people in power, right?
Yeah, and again, it makes sense, especially with the Epstein thing. And I've always looked at Epstein as, think about it like a ultimate check and balance system. I mean, look, Josh, we'd like to get you in here and put you in a seat of incredible power, but you got to play ball with us. Absolutely, I'm going to play ball. Are you sure you're going to play ball? Oh, absolutely. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Okay, just to make sure, go in that room. There's a kid in there. We got video cameras. And we know you're on the up and up type of thing. I think that was kind of Epstein's main role, whether they knew they were being taped or not. So the pedophile accusations, I get that.
I'd be surprised if they knew they were being taped, but given who's been implicated, maybe they do like being taped.
Especially the Clintons. And that's the problem that I have with, I don't know, the whole Anon-Q movement. Like, it's brutal because, again, I think Hillary Clinton is an awful human being. I think Bill Clinton is an awful human being. But I think they're fucking Disney characters compared to the accusations that the Q is dropping off.
So, I mean, given that, I was doing some research into our other favorite site, Reddit. I was kind of just looking at where did the folks that are part of QAnon post. So you have things like the Donald, who was the number one.
Which is just about on its way out, I found. It's only a couple moderators doing it now.
Conspiracy, which is one that you and I like to go to. The politics one, Drain the Swamp. The Libertarian subreddit, as well as conservative, really kind of within that realm of things. And also a pro Mueller subreddit. There's a lot of posting by people, the QAnon folks too. So they're very happy with the emails.
Well, that's the thing. Mueller is working in conjunction with Donald Trump to take down the deep state comprised of satanic, child murdering, pedophile, not lizard people, just those.
And the CIA is also part of the murdering pedophile ring, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't see why.
I just was making sure.
Yeah, I mean, just assume that everybody that isn't Donald Trump, Mueller, and a few other people, specifically John F. Kennedy Jr., who there's a big portion of the movement that believe he's actually Q.
So he didn't go down in
You heard that?
the plane crash? He's just chilling?
Nope. And if you look at his grave, it's even in this shape of a Q. This is how far you got to reach on these things. I mean, again, you talk about the amount of ambiguity that people take these little tweets. So let me break it down. I'll pull this out. So another big thing for the Q movement is the letter 17. The letter 17. I think I said that right. The number 17.
I was trying to figure out which language that was a letter in, but
exactly my point. And that's what they'll do. They'll say things like the letter 17, and that's that. That's the only message that was put out. And then people take that little crumb, if you will, and then wildly blow it out. Well, the letter 17, actually you have to spell out 17, divide that number by the number of the president and this date, and cross that with his fifth tweet that he ever put out, and numerology plays a massive role.
Now, is that numerology or from the angel number, which 17 is victory and perfection? So is it tying back to Trump and Mueller and, going towards the victory and perfection over the satanic, child raping, child murdering cabal that are not lizard people?
Well, I think it all depends on who you ask. And that's the thing, because looking deeper down this rabbit hole, I mean, there is a lot of stuff in here is so kind of fragmented, and there's different groups because it's cloaked in more ambiguity than you could possibly imagine. And they can take the message to mean whatever the fuck they want.
What I would consider to be evangelical spins to some of what is posted. What do you think about that?
Oh, they're very fundamentalist Christian. Because again, who better to fight Satan
than Donald Trump?
Fundamentalist Christian. Well, who's a fundamental Christian? Depends on who you ask.
Well, evangelicals tend to be the ones who have the most sin, telling us how we're wrong. I'd point to Jim Baker still being out there after what he did, and now hawking silver to cure coronavirus.
I think he's facing charges on that too, wasn't he?
I hope so. I don't know. I'm sure.
Pretty sure Jim Baker is now facing some sort of charge for that. But I mean, effectively with the 17, it's, well, again, looking at numerology, you'll see 17 all over the place. What letter of the alphabet is number 17? Q. There you have it. That's simple. They like it because, of course, the 17th letter of our alphabet is Q. So anything with a 17 in it just so happens to be a hidden, encoded message about the storm coming. And the storm speaks to the amount of arrests that have that are supposedly coming down all over the world. In every facet of the government. And again, if you're going to put on your crazy tinfoil hat and really, if you want to believe this, look at Epstein. I mean, you're going to tell me if you're balls deep in this Q conspiracy and you're a true anon and where we go one, we go all, and then you see Epstein, the largest arrest ever happening. Oh, that just set the hook so deep into so many of these anons out there.
And I assume that they think that Epstein was spirited away from the jail cell by Clinton and co. and not murdered by Clinton?
No, the majority that I ran into, he was murdered by Clinton. He was a pawn of the Clinton regime. Did you find anything different on that?
I just would have expected that if Epstein was part of the deep state, that they would have went with, hey, Trump, finally got him. And then Clinton and the cabal faked his death, and he left.
What I ran into is that he was absolutely murdered by the Clintons. And again, part of me thinks that he's kicking back on some beach somewhere in Israel, because I tend to think he worked for the Mossad. Not satanic that I know of, but who knows? But no, if it was the got to pick one way or the other, he was absolutely whacked out. By whom? I don't know. Maybe the Clintons. Definitely had a lot of reasons to, especially if you look at those fake manifests.
So is there anyone besides Trump and Mueller considered by QAnon to be, on their side? I saw yesterday that, they think Alex Jones is a state-controlled opposition.
He's a plant. Yeah, it's funny because, again, and the problem with Alex Jones is he's entertaining as fuck. he has been right in the past. He broke a Bohemian Grove thing over, and if you guys out there listening have never seen the Alex Jones Bohemian Grove footage, you owe it to yourself to go watch it. And it's funny, the media really has painted him in a very, very negative. Frickin' frog's gay! And I get that. He's crazy. But he has been right about some shit. Is it a broken clock type of situation? Who knows? But yeah, within the QAnon movement, that he is a deep state plant meant to throw people off the trail. But here's one of my favorite parts about this conspiracy is that William Barr is a good guy. And for those that don't know, he's the Attorney General.
So why would they consider Barr? Because in general conspiracy theory, Barr is, a person non grata. So why would QAnon be a fan of him?
The Attorney General. Who is he appointed by?
So are they a fan of everyone appointed by Trump?
Pretty much. I mean, big Mnuchin fans out there. Really, his entire cabinet that he picked, it's all been part of his team, and it's this whole battle of angels and demons.
So let me ask you this question then: is the reason why they're so involved in child murder, is that because of abortion?
That's a good point. You can get a lot of sweet ass adrenochrome from baby murder. Now, do you know what adrenochrome is? That's the question.
I don't. It sounds like adrenaline, though.
Does, doesn't it? Now, the first time I had ever heard about this, what was it? 97. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas comes out. And, you're about an hour and 20 minutes in, and Hunter takes the adrenochrome that was a fresh adrenaline gland to chew on type of thing. That was literally the first I'd ever heard of it. Of course, being fond of any drugs I can get my hands on, I'm like, let me go research this. Never found anything about it. Didn't exist, the best I could tell. But again, if you ask, in the QAnon movement, it's something that young children have in their bloodstream, and they take the drug and it gets them high. And that's a big reason for a lot of the Pizzagate, blah 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 blah. I don't know. I think the murders facilitate the adrenochrome, and they have to scare him and torture him for some really dark shit. That, God, it better be fiction.
Where have I? And that makes me think of fiction, because in my head I'm thinking about something that gained power. Freddy Krueger gained power over those kids, when they were scared.
Well, yeah, they had to be asleep for it though. I think the body needs to be awake physiologically to have adrenaline.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Because people have woken up in like sweats and stuff. So I mean, and
I don't know, but
Freddy Krueger was a pedophile.
He was. Yeah,
so now we're taking all the way back. Maybe we should look and see, did the Clintons fund Wes Craven in the slightest? And
John Carpenter is fighting Wes Craven because John Carpenter is actually QAnon.
Well, that's what They Live was all about.
It's arguably one of the greatest movies ever made.
Episode's over. We've already figured it out now.
Yep. All right, guys. You guys have a good night. Nothing more to see here, folks. Moving along. Here's the best part about the whole thing. Again, the William Barr really, I mean, it doesn't take long looking at this thing to be like, okay, they're completely off the rails. But if you push anywhere far and you're, okay, I believe this, I believe some of that, that sounds plausible, X, Y, and Z, and then you get to the William Barr part, that's where I just lose it. And here's why. William Barr, and none of this is speculation. William Barr's father was, of course, Donald Barr. Now, in the 70s, a plucky young Epstein, who is a college dropout, gets a job at the most prestigious prep school in Manhattan. Again, this guy comes out of fucking nowhere. Donald Barr, again, William Barr's father, was a key player in facilitating him getting that job. Also, Donald Barr was particularly fond of writing fiction. Fancied himself a little junior novelist and wrote these really rapey, creepy-ass science fiction novels about a master race of aliens enslaving a lesser race of aliens for sex. Not even kidding. Look it up. I think you can see one of the books that he wrote on Amazon. I believe it's called Space Relations. And again, it's just fucking fantastic. Read the reviews on it, and that's a good half an hour that you'll enjoy. This is all post Epstein arrest, but find some of the earlier ones of people that actually read it before all this shit came out. Whew, it's pretty rough stuff there. But again, at some point in time, so again, this started 2017. Like these Qs started showing up at Trump rallies, waving these big fucking signs, and you watch the kind of movement gain speed. And there was a post on Twitter that said, and this was a little weird one way or the other. And I personally think it's just Donald Trump, seeing it as an angle to ice a lot of his base. Because they said, well, if this is real, why can't we get the president to acknowledge it in some way, shape, or form? Because people are grabbing at straws saying that, oh, well, he, touched his pen twice and then he pointed to a 15 on the wall. That means 17. So really kind of reaching for it. But the post did say, can't we get Trump to acknowledge this and say something like, tip top or tippy top? Literally, that's what the post said. And then it was Easter 2 years ago, and Trump is standing there with the giant presidential Easter bunny, and he says, "We've got the best Easter bunny out there. It's tip top. Some would say it's even tippy top." So I can only imagine being a true believer at that point and just having my fucking brain explode when I see that. Because then, of course, the actual official QAnon Twitter account comes out and says, "Message received. Acknowledged." So again, I think he obviously knows about it, knows it's a constituency, and he's like, throw him a bone here and there, right? Because here's a typical tweet. This hurts my head even just thinking of this. 7536091. Bracket, corn. Outside bracket, harvest. 5x5? Question mark. What the fuck, Josh?
That sounds like my cat walked across my keyboard.
Yeah, it's about the gist of it.
If I keep letting her walk across, eventually she'll write.
1,000 monkeys banging on typewriters type of theory, and that's effectively what you get because that tweet goes out, and then every Q out there starts bouncing ideas off each other, and they write something that just happened. Because again, 1,000 monkeys banging on that keyboard, you're going to get a fucking novel. So you put out some shit tweet with enough eyes on it and let people start analyzing it, dissecting it from everything, every angle possibly, you're going to get something.
Would you say it's confirmation bias on their side?
It is every type of bias you could possibly imagine. I mean, it's...
Do you have a list?
You're using the Texas sharpshooter by cherry-picking data. And then if you're questioned on it, your burden of proof, the ambiguity is all there. The straw man is rife with this one. Because again, everybody that is not on the team of Q in their mind, it's every argument. It's just ad hominem after ad hominem attacking them. But I think when it comes to just the bias, the sunk cost fallacy, you irrationally cling to things that have already cost you something. And once you tag your fucking name and you hitch your wagon to this thing, it's kind of hard to backpedal. It's easier to backpedal from lizard people ruling a flat earth than this. In my humble opinion.
I think so. Especially when you're out there saying that, nothing is random and that everything has meaning, like the Mercy and the Comfort, the two ships that arrived at LA and New York having, the 3 red crosses on it, supposedly are 3 pluses, not a cross, according to Q. So it means something. I'm not sure if it means try and derail a train into it, but supposedly it means something.
Now, you must be joking. There's no way that ever happened. What do you think that would look like if somebody tried to, I don't know, run a fucking train into a boat because you believe this?
I feel like it would look like you stopped hundreds of yards short of a boat that's in the ocean.
That's the thing. And for those of you that don't know, we're alluding to the fact that this fucking happened. What was it? Thursday?
Wednesday or Thursday, yeah, this week.
Yeah, somebody literally tried to drive a train into a boat. Or is it California?
Yeah, it was in LA.
Yeah, so this was April 3rd this happened. I mean, hey, bless him for trying, right? Because that's, I guess...
and apparently he thought, the power of God flowed through the train in order to traverse the water when he got to it to be able to hit the boat.
Maybe you could say it was a bridge too far. Or did he need a bridge too far?
He needed the bridge because he stopped short.
I mean, good God. And again, the people, like, what really fascinated me about looking into this is the actual people in it. And it pains me to say this, but they're all, I think their heart's in the right place. Because again, if you truly believe that evil, devil-worshipping, fucking child-murdering pedophiles were running the country, and you thought this was going to stop them, I mean, again, it's a noble cause, albeit fictional as fuck.
Well, I think there's a noble cause in the deep state. And what I found interesting, like I was mentioning when I was doing some research, is heavy in the libertarian, subreddits and areas on 4chan and 8chan, if you really want to see some really disturbed stuff. Cryptocurrency, right? Conservative, conspiracy. These people are looking for answers that are all around them because they've made everything around them become the answer.
Or the question, or anything. It's so ambiguous. And again, 5 hours as of today. This tweet is 5 hours old. And this is from the official QAnon Twitter page, which if you haven't followed it, get your ass over there, and you might want to wear an N95 mask before you get into the comment sections. There's some toxic shit in there. But for the initial quote, it said, and I quote, "This movement challenges their forced narrative. This movement challenges people to not simply trust what is being reported. Research for yourself. Think for yourself. Capitalized, trust yourself. This movement is not about one person or a group of people. We, the people."
That sounds very culty.
It is, by definition. I mean, they've monetized it. I mean, Jesus Christ, there was a QAnon book written that shot to the top of Amazon's bestseller list. Like, there's a lot of people out there that really follow this. Some pretty spooky stuff too.
Well, given that, in your research, because I haven't looked at it, but some of the things I've seen is that QAnon is mostly, knock on wood, white men. A lot of posting on 4chan, 8chan, Reddit in men going their own way, incel, a lot of other women hating type of groups. I mean, what is your read on the type of people that belong to QAnon?
I stayed the toxicity of 4chan. I just can't bring myself. 4chan, 8chan, I can't. I struggle even going there. But it's overwhelmingly a Caucasian thing. White folks, because again, the whole thing is based around patriots and the spirit of 1776 type of thing. But when the best thing to do is to go on and just pick a random QAnon tweet and get into the replies and the tweet stuff. It's not just the incel community. There's a lot of women that follow this thing. There's a lot that are out there. And a lot of people have like their profile pictures and stuff. So, God only knows who they are. But
are those people going deep enough? Or are these just, the women who have their Twitter, Instagram photo of them, like wrapped in a flag and holding an AK and just...
They have cat ears. Josh. No AKs. They all have cat ears, dog noses, and or pictures of their cats, as the internet tends to do. But it's all about following the rabbit down the rabbit hole. So it's like the whole thing is predicated on bullshit. Like, again, a good conspiracy theory will start with a kernel of truth and then get so spun wildly out of control that it just, before you know it, you miss that left turn at Albuquerque type of thing. There was nothing to start this thing. No kernel, just ambiguity. And then, I mean, even things like with 3M. And as we know now with the mask shortages, President Trump told 3M to stop a shipment of N95 masks going to Singapore, I believe it was. They said,
and Canada.
Yeah. I think they said, go fuck yourself. But then even on the QAnon account, here is a quote. Let's go deeper. The 3Y logo from 1961. And then it's a picture of the 3M companies. So I don't know if this is insinuating that they are in some way, shape, or form devil-worshipping child murderers. And then you look at the replies to the tweet, it's the best. Like, my favorite of all the replies to that particular tweet is a GIF of a kitten looking shocked, covering its mouth with its paw, and the flashing OMG below it.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned there hasn't been a kernel of truth that I was thinking about as you've been talking. Is this all just a hoax?
Well, absolutely. I mean, to what extent?
Like the person that Q, it could have been some.
I think it's
some
ultimate
edgelord just sitting around going, "I'm gonna post this," and it just spun, and this is just him just fucking with people.
I think this might be the greatest troll ever played, outside of the IRS. You know,
you're playing on what people that have a hatred of the government, right? People that probably, oddly, I would have thought would be like more the sovereign citizen type of folks. People living in Idaho, militiamen, racists.
But again, it takes all kinds, and it's very. I don't know, man. This one really kind of tested my mettle as far as sanity is concerned.
Because let me ask you this: because in most conspiracies, well, the ones that aren't super political in nature, there's generally a wide swath of conservative, liberal, libertarian, whatever you consider to be centrist to be. It's more about an overall government coming after you. This seems to be very focused against getting the libtards. Things I've seen come very, very close. Like the storm sounds a lot more to me like, like a genocide, or we're going to, wipe them out. Wipe out the colored folks out. The Jews.
I never picked up on any of that. I mean, obviously, the
then I went down a different rabbit hole on 4chan and 8chan.
Yeah, that's, again, you can't go there. But it's like, again, so you take the 3M tweet, the whole thing with you looking at the logo from 3M in 1961 and saying in the tweet, "Let's go deeper." It's because if you punch yourself in the dick and cover your left eye, you'll see rabbit ears in that logo, and that's the whole point of that. Further down the rabbit hole. But the storm speaks to the coming arrests of all these people.
Can we also just point out that 3M never had, I don't think, a Y in their logo?
But it is. You gotta look at the negative space, invert it, and look in a mirror, and punch yourself in the dick and cover your left eye.
Because I'm looking at it, I just Googled it real quick. It looks like periscopes.
And if you turn it on its side, it looks like M3. Who knows? What are they? Maybe BMW's involved?
Well, that makes sense, They got some Nazi baggage.
I mean, here, if you look at this, so the guy drove the train, right? In trying to hit a boat. And then you see QAnon retweets, breaking, Trump launches massive all-out military offensive on drug cartels. And there's a picture of a battleship cruising down there. And then even if you can't, here's another QAnon tweet from 2 days ago. If you can't see or appreciate what POTUS is doing for our country right now, you are either not looking or have an axe to grind. There is no one better for the job at hand, and we need to come together and have his back on this. The choice is yours. Fly, Eagles, fly. Good God. And then but again, they'll tie it back to reality, and with tweets like this, quote, "The more you know." And then there's a Daily Beast article, Jeffrey Epstein's Hollywood pipeline ran straight to Harvey Weinstein. So going into this, if they're saying that all these pedophiles and child, sex offenders and all this shit are going to go down, and then you see Epstein go down, Weinstein go down, I can understand how these people think like, oh, the plan's actually working. And then especially with the tippy top thing, it's like, I don't know, man.
Has Weinstein ever been implicated with underage kids?
His sex pipeline and Epstein.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because I think Epstein also had a sex pipeline that was overage too. So I'm not trying I'm not trying to clear Weinstein of anything, but just pointing out that to your point, you can draw a link by saying they're in the same room together.
Well, and it's still like, a tweet from March. He retweeted this article from USArmy.com, and it says U.S. Emergency Relief is an emergency financial assistance organization that provides soldiers money. And in QAnon's tweet, he says, "Yes, we can. Follow the pen." And there's a picture with a bunch of numbers on it, and then it says start at the monthly, and the total is 35,414. You add all those numbers up, it equals 17. Okay. So that's it. That's got to be it, right? Everything, you torture numbers long enough, they'll confess to whatever you want.
I don't know what to say to some of what you're saying. I mean, you can eventually divide your way to 17 somehow.
Well, you're clearly not a patriot.
Not a good one, no.
Well, in patriotism or national pride, quote, feeling of love, devotion, and sense of attachment to a homeland, an alliance with citizens who share the same sentiment, when, quote, non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control. The Great Awakening, freedom of thought, was designed, I'm like wandering into Charlton Heston, designed to create not only his back channel to the public. I mean, good God, get on Twitter and just start reading these things. My fucking brain hurts. I just don't. If you're out there and you're listening to us and you're tell me what I'm missing. I spent 2 days reading this shit.
And I mean, I went through it, and all I could find is I found, don't want vote by mail, because that's obviously a ploy by, the enemies of Trump in order to vote him out, right? Because it'll be a fake election if people are able to vote by mail. I've seen a lot of images of Trump with angel's wings, which was odd. And I've seen a lot of wording that really kind of reminds me of Scientology.
Well, again, any good cult should have its own kind of dogmatic belief about it, but they take everything. I mean, there was a press conference where Trump picked up a bottle of Fiji water, and the Q community lost their collective shit. Because you know where most child trafficking comes from? Fiji. And he picked up Fiji water. It's like, well, it's the best water. Everybody knows that.
Really? I figured it came from Arrowhead.
No, you don't want to traffic Indian children.
What do you think about QAnon also being hardcore military worshippers?
Well, they're patriots. And of course, you don't want a good infrastructure. You want a strong military, right?
That makes sense. That's just the other thing that I saw was everything was very pro-military, like constant retweeting of, what military Twitter is saying, the Navy always tagging it with stuff like, look at our Q Army, like that the military is, oddly enough, the CIA, FBI, DEA, FDA, CDC, whomever, they're all part of the cabal, but the military is not, even though the military has been controlled by various Democrats, so on and so forth. So I'm trying to, that part's kind of weird that they don't think that the military is not part of the cabal, and, people are using the aircraft carriers not to carry aircraft, but to carry little baby kids back and forth. And the U.S. Mercy and the Comfort are there to save the kids.
I think this is going to catch hot water, but when you see a lot of the flag wavery and hyper pro-military stuff, instant picture that springs to my mind is a not exactly the most highly educated or well-to-do member of society. I think of generally I don't know, what's a good way to put it? A lot of country music fans, not fans of sleeves on their shirts. You think of just a lot of I'll go ahead and say it. A lot of dumb white people is really what comes to mind with all the complete flag wavering. And I'm not pro-military. I'm anti-war, and I support the troops. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. I can support the troops and be anti-war. But a lot of the people in this movement, again, are from Rust Belt, southern areas of the country, and are the type that it just his ravenous constituency, Trump's constituency, the ones that have been fucked over by the Democratic Party, like the rest of us, and think this is their way out, their way to push back. And you almost can't blame them, because again, the Democrats turned their back on the working people a long time ago, back in the Clinton administration.
But that's true. But how does that logically lead to, posts on Twitter that, they're pulling up, dead kids out of the tunnels of New York, and that the reason why they're setting up the hospital in Central Park is, because of that, and that, the kids in the tunnels were bred for torture and sexual abuse, and that the morgue trucks that were sent to New York are for the children. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is out there that's kind of going beyond your normal, the Clintons murdered a bunch of people, which is a future episode, but going into, tunnels beneath New York being a haven of pedophiles.
Dude, you're jumping into this at season 6, Josh. If the Clintons murdering Epstein was the most shocking thing ever, that's the Red Wedding. That was season 4 or season 3, whatever the fuck that was. You're way deep past that. So all of this shit really picked up steam and was validated along the way, be it through happenstance or not, years ago. Now the coronavirus thing has really just kicked off even more. So you can, again, it's already that the train left the tracks, long ago, and it's just careening through space at this point, where every little thing is a 7D chess move. And again, like you talk about the military, I don't know, man. There's some really weird shit. Like Michael Flynn, General Flynn, is speaking at a QAnon convention coming up.
But is that because of anything other than a paycheck?
I can't imagine it would be. I mean,
because if there's any QAnon conventions that would like James and I to show up, we will show up for a nominal fee.
I'm not. I've said enough bad shit about the movement. You go show up and get murdered by these wackos. That's on you. I imagine he's just there to get paid. You got to consider that. Not cheap to go to this convention. General admission is $99. If you want ultra VIP option, with the majority of proceeds going towards Flynn's defense fund, whatever the fuck that might entail, you're looking at $2,500.
I'm surprised general admission isn't $17.
Ooh. Well, have you divided $2,500 down enough ways to torture it to where you can get to 17? That's all you got to do.
We could try and figure out what that number would be.
Well, he's also there with Papadopoulos. That last name has what? At least 17 letters in it.
That's true.
And if it doesn't, you borrow either one initial or both initial from Flynn, and then you get your number of 17. Because, of course, George Papadopoulos will be also speaking. And I think one of the keynotes they're talking about is training digital soldiers. I mean, Jesus Christ. Michael Flynn, speaking at this thing, it just shows how insane the world that we're living in is now. And I tend to really lean towards simulation theory. You're looking at shit like this. I mean, this guy was the fucking national security advisor. And now he's speaking at QAnon conventions. What is happening?
There are a bunch of religious wackos that love the military. I mean, again, if folks haven't gone out to Twitter, either on the QAnon hashtag or hashtag WWG1WGA, which is where goes one, we go all. I mean, it is biblical end days. Trump is the savior. Kind of exactly what the evangelical church parrots out there.
Well, there was Michael Flynn's son, Michael Flynn Jr., that really pushed the Pizzagate narrative, too. Which he has, of course, since distanced himself from.
I just can't put my finger on them outside of religious gun-toting wackos. I mean, I've seen things like Q is Julian Assange, which would be funny. Doesn't seem like Julian Assange's choice of folks to have following him.
Not enough Swedes in the movement. My favorite is JFK Jr. That JFK Jr. is fucking Q. And he's been orchestrating this whole thing in cahoots with Donald Trump to take down the deep state that murdered his father, John. Like, what?
A little late.
Oh, haven't you ever read The Count of Monte Cristo, man?
I have, actually.
Best served cold.
Yeah, but I mean, but that was hundreds of years ago where people had patience. Today's world, we want to get this shit done now. Trump wants to open the country on Easter. We only got a week to go.
Maybe that's when Q actually moves in and strikes.
That's true. I bet, if Easter had fallen on the 17th this year, God, can you imagine?
Well,
they show up with 12.
You want to look with, the big thing is that Q is going to reveal himself on July 4th, and I think that's kind of come and gone. But I mean, like I said, this being the alpha conspiracy, this pulls in everything from 5G to Pizzagate, Lizard. I mean, you name it. And it's just a fringy. It should be so fringe far right, but it's not. It's fucking mainstream.
Yeah, they are, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of how mainstream, because I've seen posts the last few days where they're saying, fuck Fox News.
Well, there was also people saying, well, of course,
that Fox News is part of the deep state, which was different. But if you go and look like a couple weeks back, they're all like, fuck yeah, Fox News.
Well, yeah, but then the narrative changes and they say something they don't like. But I mean, these guys were saying that the coronavirus was part of the plan, part of Q's plan. And some of the people being brought down by this were Tom Hanks, because he was not actually infected with coronavirus, he was actually arrested, because if you look at the picture that he took with his wife when they're supposedly in coronavirus quarantine, that sink behind them is clearly a jailhouse sink, and Q is already ushering them back to be debriefed and spill the beans and bring down the whole Hollywood elite, and that Oprah is a part of it. And Oprah just went out and like made public. She's like, no, I haven't been arrested.
That's an interesting thing because when I was doing my research, I saw that they thought it was a bioweapon either by China or Bill Gates. And then it changed after Trump said it was a hoax in February. They pivoted to just a deep state plot. Then it doesn't exist at all. But then after Trump said, no, it's not a hoax, people are going to die, I'm so sorry, they went to your part where it's part of the war against the deep state, and this is how they're getting to those folks. Just a cover in order to take down the deep state.
Well, I'm happy that they're off it was a bioweapon and Bill Gates involved kick, because I wouldn't want to be associated with them in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not taking those two things off the table. Specifically, man-made virus. Bill Gates, I need to talk to you, sir. We need to have some words.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his ploy would... Well, I know what their thought of the ploy is population control, and as a part of the deep state.
Agenda 21. The depopulation. But, I mean, as long as we've got patriots like Q out there, hopefully that won't happen. But as this thing kind of moves closer and drifts toward the political mainstream, like, God help us, who knows what's going to happen with this one. But what really freaks me out about it is these people are hyper-militarized about it. And these are the people that own guns, plural.
Well, I don't think we should go from just plural, I think. We'll come after plural.
Plethora?
Plethora, I think, would be good. Because, having two guns is just someone with a hobby.
Well, it's like cats. You don't want to have just one cat because your gun gets lonely. So then you want to bring in a rifle to play with it,
That's
when
true.
you're off at work.
And a handgun to be the baby gun.
Yeah, that's how it works. Don't lock them up in a safe or a crate.
So I want to get back to your part about hyper-militarized. I think they're also very much a fan of a totalitarian state, because if you go and look at, some of the theories out there that, most of the Democrats are out there wearing ankle bracelets because they're secretly under arrest. Every U.S. president prior to Trump was part of a deep state criminal conspiracy with pedo rings and pharma companies to enslave the American people.
Kennedy was also clear.
Again, depends on which 4chan, 8chan, Twitter / Reddit board you happen to go to.
Well, the ones that I came across, Kennedy was also a good president. Lincoln was also a good president. And we know what happened to those patriots.
Hey, brains blown out.
Hey, these things happen.
Well, everyone else was assassinated. Were they part of the pharma pedo ring?
Well, pharma, I don't think they had pharma back when Lincoln was around. I mean, you went to like find a good doctor in 1865.
The ones with cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, you went to medical school. It took 6 days.
Hey, big cocaine probably was trying to, if you're gonna fuck a kid, wouldn't you do it on cocaine?
I think you'd have to be high on cocaine, right?
Yeah.
Or laudanum. I think that was all the rage back then.
That too.
But,
now you just get, the 70s, Quaaludes fucking the kids.
Ludes, yeah.
Now you're on ecstasy, MDMA, all kinds of... I don't know. I'm not fucking a kid, so I don't know what the current trend is.
Well, and to give, a little bit of credit to where they can possibly see this is dude, they hypersexualize kids, and they've done that for the last 15 years, 20 years. To me, it seems like it's sped up. There's some creepy shit out there, no doubt.
It's really sped up since probably 2000, I think. It's gone. I think the 90s, there was some, but the minute Britney Spears showed up and shit.
Midriff on the world, and every 30-year-old creep gets a fucking hard on. They're like, hey, 30-year-old creeps have more money than horny 18, 16-year-olds.
I'm curious if we could figure out when that countdown clock started and when Britney Spears debuted. Might have been like the day after the countdown clock just started.
Well, yeah, because you can't really do that. I mean, it wasn't Britney Spears. She definitely helped, but even the message that she was putting out there, she's like, oh, I'm saving myself for marriage. And meanwhile, like, Justin Timberlake's balls deep in that, so the message that was officially being put out was, you should wait. And
don't wear a full denim outfit.
It comes across like when smartphones, because then all of a sudden, people have smartphones, and Ariana Grande is the new Britney, and yeah, you know how that goes.
And she looks a lot younger than Britney ever did.
And she's a whore.
Hey, I don't judge.
No, I don't either. I appreciate it. I think we need more whores in this world, frankly, of age. That's all I'm asking.
But also, from what I've seen, is that these QAnon people aren't a big fan of women having sexual agency.
No. I mean, I think any male Q worth of salt would understand that women's place is in the kitchen, and that men should have a harem of women, bitches and hoes. But again, a lot of women in this movement too. I don't know how they feel about it.
Well, I think they feel fine about it. Look at how many women actively try and suppress women's rights.
Quite a few.
I mean, I don't think just because you're a woman that you are immune to, wanting to shut them whores up. Look at how many women hated Hillary Clinton. I don't think it's a monolith of women supporting women out there.
No, I mean, but again, like, looking through some of the comments on this, like, Pizzagate is really thrown out there, and that ties, directly back to Hillary Clinton. But then you see things like Anthony Weiner. That's not fiction. That shit happened. So if you believe and you're told something is going to happen, and then again, there's more reasons for. How about this? Every QAnon out there is just a Christian that got sick and tired of waiting for an actual plausible sign outside of lightning. They believe in the Messiah and the pearly gates and angels and demons and all that. You walk around your entire life and never see shit. Then all of a sudden you pivot and you start following this Q thing, and you start seeing shit that somewhat resembles what you thought was going to happen, i.e. Epstein, i.e. Weiner, i.e. Weinstein. So it becomes your religion, and it kind of starts to move in that direction. And these are people, again, I think with the Christians that are, if you're an adult Christian, I mean, God help you. If you fervently believe that, I don't know. I'm not an atheist by any stretch, but at the same time, like, I can't imagine somebody fervently believing that. Maybe that's just me. Whatever, nod your noodle. But again, I think if you really believe that, you got to question it on some fundamental cellular level. And then you move into this, and you start actually getting shit that, like, it would basically be like the arrests that have happened and things that have happened in line with the QAnon movement would be like seeing a cloud float by that really looked like Jesus. Not like if I punch myself in the dick and cover my left eye, but it really looked like Jesus' face. Like, that's a sign. He's real. Something along those lines. I don't know. Maybe I'm just ranting, but who knows?
I think it comes down to me is everything, and I've said it a couple times, everything sounds very much like the evangelical church.
Very much so.
It's just a grift. Evangelicals very, very patriotic, quote unquote, that enjoy watching people suffer, pull yourself up from the bootstraps. It just, I don't know. When I read the post, when I go through Twitter, I feel like you could just flip it around and go to evangelical Twitter and see the same things. Trump's the savior. conspiracy peoples. They don't want people to think too much for themselves.
But you have to start producing. And if you want to talk about a grift, I mean, like, take the Catholic Church, for example, which, you know, a lot of the arrests and the shit that's been going down there plays very well with the Q, because Christians hate Catholics for whatever reason. But you talk about a grift, I mean, you got to produce something. Q has at least produced something that can be construed.
Yeah, but keep in mind, though, too, is that evangelicals hate the Catholics because, you know, and to be an evangelical, you have to be born again, which means that you're a shitty person that has now forgiven yourself while basically holding others to task for the things that you did that you know, gave yourself a pat on the back on because you found God.
But again, take the Catholic Church, man. That's the greatest grift. That's the longest running grift I can think of. And
Freemasons.
Well, you know, that's a whole different thing. And there's a lot of...
It's a different episode. I just like to throw that out there for you.
It plays into Q. Because again, this being the... you know, if you take, you know, Freemasons and Pizzagate and all these infinity stones of conspiracies... QAnon is the gauntlet in which they're all placed.
To an extent. I mean, but they're not involved in, like, alien cover-up conspiracies. They're not involved in what traditionally I would consider to be a conspiracy. It is all us versus them movement, really. I mean, it's no different than, you know, the skinheads up at Hayden Lake up in Idaho.
Well, I think that the lack of aliens in there is due to the fact, much like Flat Earth, it's Christians. And aliens really conflict with the Christian worldview. They really bump heads with that. And it's I don't know if like I've asked in other episodes, anybody out there listening, if you are a Q supporter who is an atheist, for the love of fuck, send us an email. Because I would love to hear an atheist's, even just non-secular, like,
if you're a Jewish QAnon member, please send us an email.
For the love of Jehovah, send us an email, because you're clearly a plant working for the Mossad to take down the true patriots.
Or you're really a self-hating Jew.
Are you there, accountant? It's okay. You can tell us.
I'm just saying, like, you know, from a traditional conspiracy theorist, it just, everything they believe is just so out of whack with typical conspiracy theory. I agree with you that the threads are there, but they've turned it differently. It's not, you know, the CIA has killed a bunch of people to keep certain secrets, you know, hidden, or that, you know, we've actually been able to do remote viewing and we're keeping that secret, you know what I mean? Or those type of conspiracies, you know, who actually killed Kennedy with the magic bullet. This is all, I mean, pro-totalitarian regime.
Well, I mean, again,
type theories that would lead you there.
Yeah, but the great conspiracy is the fact that millions of taxpayer dollars went in to study remote viewing. You know, that's a fucking conspiracy.
Absolutely.
So far as Kennedy's concerned, you know, that's one I'm pretty convinced on. He was fucking whacked out. Oswald did not work alone on that. That's a whole other episode, but there's some very weird shit with that.
Right. I'm just saying, like, everything that I see is just a lot of racists that are out there that have glommed onto this with the hope that Trump is going to bring about the next great race war, and we'll finally get rid of the liberals, the libtards, immigrants, throw black folk back to where they should be, picking cotton on the farm.
I mean, again, a lot of the poor white people is the core of this group. Poor white people from rural areas. Really a big chunk of this group. And I can only try to view it from their perspective.
I'm going to break in real quick. I also saw quite a few people from the liberal bastion states. So Washington's, Oregon's, California's, but they live in Spokane.
Which is a red state.
That half of Washington, yes. They live in the southern parts of Oregon, northern California, more like the Red Bluffs area, the Inland Empire type, farmlandy type areas as well.
Think about that. I mean, again, you remove, let's take Oregon and Washington. Remove Seattle, remove Portland. Those are...
Remove the I-5 corridor. I think
they're battle states. So I look at anybody in those rural areas. Again, I understand why you fucking hate California and you hate the city folk. I get it. You're also been made to believe that, Mexicans are taking your jobs. If any of you were out picking fruit and cleaning houses before and you lost your job, you have my deepest sympathies. But again, you just understand that you're wrong in those regards. But they have their own points on a lot of things, again, which is, people say as far as an election cycle is concerned, you should switch to the popular vote. And I don't think the Electoral College is perfect, but I understand why we have it because, again, without that part of the system, you're just campaigning up and down the coasts. Fuck the middle of the country. They don't get a say type of thing. So it's nuanced and I don't have an answer for it, but I can understand their hatred because again, you look around your communities, they're decimated. Look at a lot of these places in the, West Virginia.
No, I understand it. And I think liberals should understand because the same way they feel about, these corporations that are out there that are, screwing people left and right, especially in this current environment. I think everyone understands how they're getting screwed.
Yeah, and when you need somewhere to point that hate and vitriol, you kind of take the closest thing, and if you think that somebody's going to make it better and make America great again and drain the swamp and all the shit, again, how many people out there voted for Obama twice, got fucking nothing out of it? Hope and change, got shit on and got more of the same. Went the slogan of, yes, we can, to, well, fuck it, thought we could, and then all of a sudden, here comes Donald Trump saying he's going to drain the swamps and he's talking like a normal person that you can understand. And I understand what would draw someone to that side of things. I really do, but...
Well, yeah, it's a pro wrestling promo.
Yeah, and Donald Trump is a pro wrestling fucking president. He understands pro wrestling better than anybody. And didn't he wrestle Vince McMahon?
No, they had a match to see who got they had someone else wrestle for him, and whoever won would get their head shaved. But that was the most successful, I think, WrestleMania pay-per-view buy rate ever, because he can go out there and he can cut a promo. He can say the things that people want people to say, like when he's in those press conferences and calling a question, a nasty question from someone. People like it when people aren't diplomatic and they're keeping it quote unquote real. That's why you see that weird kind of crossover between Trump supporters and Bernie supporters.
It's odd. Again, these are non-establishment people. So again, when I look at this year and I see the DNC deciding to run out Joe fucking Biden, I'm like, you guys, why don't you just throw in the towel now? Because you're running a fucking hyper-establishment candidate in a time that is clearly anti-establishment. What the fuck are you thinking? But they're going to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. Except I think anyone who thinks that Trump isn't part of the establishment, which I think you agree he is. He's a sock puppet for the corporations and the folks that truly run things. Not that Biden wouldn't be either, but the folks that think he's anti-establishment have been sold a line, and they took it.
I don't know. Whatever delusions people had of Trump draining the swamp should have gone right out the fucking window when Steve Mnuchin was brought in. Again, that is the swamp.
What do you mean? I mean, yeah. I mean, we got the guy that's heading the HHS is a former big pharma exec. People that are heading the FDA, or prior ran, food companies. Guy who's the head of the FCC, former Verizon lobbyist. I mean, it's like you can't see that these people are stacking the deck against the American populace. That's the conspiracy.
Well, and again, to not understand that and to just, I think a lot of it's hard to backpedal. And I think it takes, you'd have to look at what's that chick's name that walked away from the West Baptist, whatever
the West Baptist Church.
Yeah, that one. She walked away from that. And that is on par with what I think a lot of Trump supporters and QAnon believers would have to do. It's not going to be fucking easy for them to admit that they were dead fucking wrong.
And it's tough to come back from protesting children's grave sites just because they were gay.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as the Qs are concerned, I'd really encourage anybody out there who wants to question your fellow countrymen more than ever before to get out there and look on Twitter. Again, avoid 4chan.
I would say avoid it, unless you really kind of want to see the odd stuff in there.
I understand you're going deep at that point.
You're going to see some stuff you don't want to see. That's for sure.
Shit you can't unsee, and it's all on 4chan. But yeah, that's all I got on it. I mean, there was an interesting bit of research on this. Get after it, guys.
Yeah, I'd say go take a look. If you think we're wrong, definitely shoot us a line at josh@theconspirati.com or james@theconspirati.com. If you think that, the QAnon theories are correct, if you are, like Roseanne, and have come around to QAnon and you'd like to explain that, or Kurt Schilling, please let us know. I would have said prior to today, I guess, most QAnon folks were fans of Alex Jones, but I think that crossover is about to end since he's threatening to expose QAnon. Drop us a line.
Please make it just at least, I can't go more than 2 degrees away from reality. Right? So if you're going to give me something as to why I should believe this, keep it within 2 degrees. I'll take 2 steps with you. They can even be big steps. But don't start saying numerology and then 17 divided by the Gregorian calendar and pizza ordered in 6 slices. Come on. 2 degrees. I'll give you 2 steps. But please, let us know.
And I'll accept anything outside of how anyone thought that driving a train into a boat would send any sort of message whatsoever.
Yeah, geez, just be pragmatic. Unless that train was full of devil-worshipping child killers.
I think they thought the boat was full of devil-worshipping child killers.
Maybe it was a win-win. Train full, boat full, bam! Take them all out.
Well, that's true. Except I don't think there was any casualties, unfortunately, because they arrested the guy who was driving the train.
Well, outside of that one man's dignity, there was no casualties.
Nope. Apparently he didn't watch Back to the Future Part 3. Gotta get that train up to 88 miles an hour in order to launch yourself at that boat.
What was the whole point of it? Marty, it's your kids! They're gonna get eaten by devil-worshipping... That's it. It was all Back to the Future. It was Doc Brown. Clock Tower represents...
Shit, now we gotta go watch the movie.
I got nothing. I gotta go watch Back to the Future 1, 2, and 2. I'll stop at 2 because there is no part 3.
Now I'm trying to remember. Did he hit the clock tower at exactly midnight, or was it 17 after midnight?
It very well could have been. What day did he hit it on? Could have been the 17th.
Perhaps. It was 19.
Interesting.
We'd have to figure this out.
Anybody out there listening, though, I want you to pay attention every time you see a 17. And just play a game that I like to play. Anytime you see a 17, see how quickly you can connect that to something. find a 17 on anything. Could be the first and the last digit on your favorite soft drink. And then you can just take it wildly out of control from there.
Or it could be the girl you met in the chat room.
Who is probably a dude. And he's probably a racist if it's on 4chan.
That's true.
But, as always, man, we're going to keep it high in the Rockies, and you guys hold it down wherever you're at. And if you like what we're doing, leave us a review. And if you don't, tell us how to get better. Pretty straightforward.
Absolutely. And take care of yourselves out there with this coronavirus. Support your local businesses and stay safe.
Oh, don't forget, masks are now a good idea, according to the CDC. The ones that said that they were a bad idea, it's now a good idea. So that's exciting. It's good stuff.
Cloth is a good idea. Any type of
Just
mask.
a bandana. Just a bandana will do good.
Something.
Take care, guys.
Take care.